Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Win Daily Sports NFL pre-lock show for Week 11. I'm Dave at D-Gleck, and that's Nick at BetsByGhost. We're here today to break down the main slate on the DFS target here in the NFL, and we'll go through game by game. Can't wait to get involved, talk to you. Hey, put your comments in the chat. We'll get to them as we go here. Also, give us some of your better plays, and we'll react on those, and we'll hand them out as well. And I hope you're in the Discord. Nick's in there all the time, giving out his late pre-lock picks, even post-lock picks for the later games. So keep an eye on that. But Nick, what's up, bud?
Not much, but I'm ready for another week, and it's 1 week before Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite slates on the season is coming up on Thursday. So looking to gain some momentum today, and it's an interesting one. Got a couple good spots, got a couple rough ones, and a lot of weather to talk about. So it's gonna be an action-packed show.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. And what's the first game you got out there?
We'll start with your Philadelphia Eagles taking on Indianapolis. Philly coming in just under 7-point favorite in this one, -6.5 on the line. 45 is a game total. Matt Ryan back under center for Indy. That offense definitely looked a lot better last week than it has throughout the season. But anything you like here?
Yeah, and look, Jimmy checking in right from where we're talking about already. I love it. Listen, the Eagles really got kind of punched in the mouth, we'll just say, on Monday night. They took their style of football and kind of didn't play their normal style. 2 rush attempts in the first half. And I think it took them a while to really figure out, hey, you can't play with teams. And by the time then the game ended, it was a little too late. But what that means is I think they're going to go back to basics today, Ghost. I think you are going to see a strong dose of the running attack. I think Miles Sanders is a good GPP play. I also think Hurts gets his legs going today. We haven't seen them really since week 2. I think he gets out there and gets on the move. I'm a little worried about the rush prop. 42 seems high, but I do think the run PO is active today. And I do like those two. And I also state from the Eagles side, keep an eye on the tight end. I think it's going to be Calcaterra getting the touches, but all of them are 25 and under. If you want to go dumpster diving and take a deep shot on the Stoll, Calcaterra, Jackson, I don't blame you because someone's going to get the catches there and someone's going to produce a decent day.
Yeah, for sure. And with the injury to Dallas Goedert, the one thing that I did want to mention, which is exactly what you had right at the end there, is the tight end position. There's going to be a lot more blocking on this line, right? And you look at what Jalen Hurts has been doing this season, and now you're adding an essential 6 blocker for him back there. It's going to be a lot of damage done with his legs, and look for him to spread the ball around fairly easily today against this Indianapolis defense. They have a half decent run defense. It's nothing, on paper it looks really good. They just haven't been performing to that standard. So I'm always wary about attacking it. But this is a big Jalen Hurts game, man. Especially in tournaments, I'm really down to paying up for Jalen Hurts, pairing him with AJ Brown, and just stopping right there. Right, I don't want too much action on this Philadelphia offense. They're not going to be my main stack. It's not a game that I'm going overboard on, but I really do think Jalen Hurts gets it done with his legs today, and he's going to have to create some plays. He lost his safety net in Dallas Goedert over the middle there, right? So it's going to be the AJ Brown. His route tree is not going to change. He's going to continue running that same route. So the middle of the field is going to be wide open. I think they get Miles Sanders going a little bit more in the passing game, as do I think they get Kenneth Gainwell involved as well. But this offense, the main reason why I'm not stacking is just because the ball gets spread around so much. Miles Sanders is obviously going to get his on the ground. But yeah, I really do like Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown for tournaments this week a ton, a lot. It's one of my main duos that I'm going to be using. They're not going to crack my main lineup, but it is going to be one of my main duos that I'm using for sure. There's a lot funneling to AJ Brown. And then when you look at the Indianapolis side of things, everybody in the field is playing Paris Campbell. I get it. He's been looking really good with Matt Ryan in the center. This Philly pass defense is elite, man. Going up against Darius Slay and Bradbury, like this is tough for me to stomach this chalk. I'm fine with it in cash. The guy's gonna be. I don't even know if I could pinpoint a number. It might eclipse 50%. It honestly might eclipse 50% in cash games. So I think it should. Yeah, and rightfully so, especially at the bottom of the pricing grid there with guys like Nico Collins, etc. I was happy to see Sticks was on the same wavelength. I didn't want to throw shade at Nico Collins when Sticks is not on the show. But at the same time, like, guys, Brandon Cooks didn't die. Like, the man is still out there. He's still running routes. He's still got a route participation rate that's really high. He's still got a high snap share. Like, Nico Collins had one good game. Like, there's not enough for me to just go chase after that blindly, you know? So at the bottom of the pricing grid, I do prefer Paris over Nico. Not to say that Nico's not a good play, but I'll definitely take Paris Campbell over Nico. But in tournaments, man, I'm all out on Paris Campbell. There's no chance I'm playing a chalk punt wide receiver against Darius Slay and James Bradbury with Matt Ryan under center. It's just not happening, right? So that's the one thing that I'll say about this. I'm playing Paris Campbell in cash. I absolutely can't stomach it. My stomach is bubbling when I click Paris Campbell's name in cash, but at the same time, it's what it is. The field is doing it. You absolutely have to do it. But I would 10 on 10 would not recommend double punting wide receiver in cash. We'll just get ahead of that right away. You cannot play Nico Collins and Paris Campbell in cash together. That is an absolute no-go from me today. We'll talk about the cash wide receivers that we're doing, but Paris Campbell's certainly going to be one of them for me. Anything you like on the indie side of the ball today, or not?
Yeah, I think you hit it. I mean, you got to play Taylor here and there with the Eagles' rush defense, 29th ranked. They did bring in, two horses in the middle. How much will be ready? And Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. Sue already tweeted out this morning, what a beautiful game day. So he's definitely suiting up. But the thing about it is, I just don't know how effective they will be, but they will absolutely stack that box. So don't take any credence into signing two old defensive ends, but they'll adjust their game style this week. They're not going to be threatened by Matt Ryan, who can't throw the ball more than 15 yards. So Taylor's nice, but I don't love him. So be careful about overloading him. But I love Paris Campbell, and I do it more in cash. I agree. I think they're going to get back to a little bit more man-to-man. They're going to get tighter on guys like, they're not going to let Pierce or anyone beat them. Campbell could get a sneaky one here, especially with slot cornerback being out. So I like your call on Campbell. And good looking out, Brian. Love it, man. And then wanted to check on this. We had a question. See, I think we're getting there. But, Ghost, do you have an opinion on Kendall Hilton, or you want to wait on that?
Yeah, we'll talk about that game. See, I'm gonna make you wait for that one. Sorry, Bro Beans, but I'm intrigued by this Broncos offense, and that one made my stomach bubble too. It's nauseating, but there's a lot of touches to go around there. So all in all, I'll go more in depth, but yes, I do like him. Injury is a little concerning, but there's another guy that I'm looking at too. So we'll talk about that.
So I'll answer this one, and you can tell me if you lean the same way. I lean Tony and Myers in that stack there. I think Tony's in line for a very solid day. I mean, we already saw him starting to get more touches in that Chiefs offense, and now everyone has a concussion on the wide receiver side. So I think I would lean Tony and Myers. Yeah,
you have to. If you're playing a cash game slate where Kadarius Toney is on it, I'm not sure which slate that is because he's in the Sunday Night Football game there, so just be careful with your contest selection. But at the same time, if you're playing a cash game where the Chiefs are on the slate, you absolutely have to lock button Kadarius Toney. I don't really care who that second option is. You have to play him. Absolutely. Second game, and the reason why I'm starting with this one is because this is my favorite to Paris Campbell, so we're keeping the theme going here. But LA Rams taking on the New Orleans Saints. Matt Stafford back under center. Really low total in this one, 39.5. Matt Stafford versus Andy Dalton. Wow. That being said, that's a theme of the week, man. My stomach is bubbling with a lot of these players that we're talking about in a lot of these matchups, but that's what it is week before Thanksgiving. But this game's in a dome. We're going to talk a lot about some weather in certain games. This one, absolutely no concern being played at Caesars in New Orleans. So anything you like in this one? No, Cooper Kupp, massive injury there. So I'll just lay that out there to tee it up for you, but no Cooper Kupp for the LA Rams.
Yeah, it's ugly, right? With the implied team totals, both under 20. Looking at this, the number 30th offense in the Rams, the number 24th in the Saints. I don't love anything in this game. I'm not saying it's a straight stay away. There is some value in a few players. I might sprinkle in Kamara a little bit in some of my GPPs just because he's going to be so low owned. And the thing about Kamara is, the more touches he gets in like a lot of number ones, the better he gets. If they can somehow find a way to get that guy 20 touches, I think he pops for over 20 today. The Rams are not very good at defending the pass against the running backs. So I think there's a chance there for Kamara. And outside of that, I don't know if I'll play much else. Not much Higbee love today.
Yeah, so the main thing that I'll tip off with this is that both of these defenses are in play, right? They're likely to be the second most and third most rostered defenses on the slate. Steelers are going to be number one, or all three of these are going to be interchangeable. I just think the field flocks to the Steelers just because they're as close to minimum price as it gets for a team that's not going to allow 35 points there. So, look, a lot of people are going to play the Steelers. Saints and Rams are going to be the next option. If people have the option to go up to either one of these defenses, they'll definitely do it. They'll be the second and third most. But at the same time, there's a bit of intrigue for me here on offense. Matt Stafford's going to have to sling the ball a ton today. They have no run game whatsoever. Cam Akers back into the fold. I get it. The Rams can't muster a run game behind this offensive line right now. Matt Stafford's going to have to play, and there's absolutely no weather concern. You're putting Matt Stafford in a dome. Out last week, I'm going under the assumption that he's healthy at 5,500.
Yep.
Am I playing him? Absolutely not. Who I am playing is Ben Skowronek. And that is really gross. And I could already hear Stix talking over my shoulder right now saying, don't do this. But I'm looking for pivots to Paris Campbell chalk, and this is my guy. Everywhere that I'm like, okay, I'm playing Paris Campbell, I'm saying I'm not playing Paris Campbell, I'm playing Ben Skowronek. And the one situation that I need this guy to go off? Absolutely not. All I need him to do is outscore Paris Campbell. That's literally all I need to do, because the rest of your build will remain the same. And if you're going up against one person, let alone 10,000 people or 100,000 people, that everybody, imagine a scenario where everybody has the same lineup and all you're doing is playing Ben Skowronek over Paris Campbell. You don't need anything else other than that 1-for-1 to go your way, right? So all of a sudden you're jumping tens of thousands of people in these large field tournaments because you're playing Ben Skowronek. The Rams offense is not going to change. They are going to continue running 3 wide receiver sets because they have no run game, which is what I alluded to before, right? No run game is instant 3 wide receiver sets for Sean McVay, especially in a Sean McVay-led offense. You're going to have Van Jefferson and Allen Robinson on the outside. Van Jefferson is just going to run go routes. That's what he does. It's going to be a ton of go routes. He's going to try and stretch that field. Allen Robinson's going to be, running deeper to mid-range routes. It's Ben Skowronek over the middle, guys. He has the exact same route sheet as Cooper Kupp. Is he as good as Cooper Kupp? Absolutely not. Do not take that out of context. But he runs the same routes as Cooper Kupp does. Is he as good as it? Absolutely not. But that's what Matt Stafford is used to. And he's going to pepper this guy with targets. Same thing goes for Tyler Higbee. I think I'm looking at the two guys over the middle right now. It's Tyler Higbee and it's Ben Skowronek, man. It's really, really gross. It's really gross. But you need pivots to these Paris Campbells, to these Nico Collins, etc. My go-to this week is going to be Ben Skowronek. It's what it is. I'm expecting an absurd amount of 3 wide receiver sets for the Rams today.
Yeah, I like it. Let me ask you, do you have any love for Kyren Williams? Because I'm tempted. He did get 3 catches last week, got implemented with just 1 carry. But he was a stud out of Notre Dame. I think he's already better than Henderson and Akers. Do you think they even try and mix it up? Because Kyren Williams at 4,800, you get a couple touches out there, I think he could pop that number. I'm just curious if you have anything on the radar for Kyren.
I don't this week, but I also don't want to. I don't want to miss out the week that he potentially explodes. Is that week ever going to come? I don't know. That's the main thing for me. It's like when Jonathan Taylor was slumping, we're like, okay, we need to be ahead of the Jonathan Taylor explosion week. Same thing for other elite players. You're like, okay, you need to be there when these guys explode. For a guy like Kyren Williams,
Pierce.
Right.
Yeah.
Like for a guy like Kyren Williams, I can't sit here and say with utmost confidence that there ever is going to be an explosion week, right? Just because of the way that this is a trifecta in the backfield. It has nothing to do with his talent. It's just the fact that they'll continue to feature Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. Like, it's just, that's the one thing. I'm cooler with playing him. Like, if you're playing an early only slate and you want to load up on studs, then I'm cool with that. But for the main slate, I just can't get there. But I do think they're gonna have to have him out there more often than not, because they're gonna need to. I think the Rams are gonna have to play this game fast. If they get into a 1-for-1, 8 to 10 minute drives every time, like they're really milking the clock, they're gonna lose this game. Yep. They will lose this game. So like they don't, and purely based on the fact that they don't have the playmakers that New Orleans has right now. Alvin Kamara is going to be the best offensive player on the field, and It's just what it is. Whether they have Andy Dalton under center or not, like, you don't have Cooper Kupp on your team right now. It's an extremely one-dimensional offense. Your offensive line is not performing, and you just lost your best wide receiver, who is arguably the best wide receiver in the league.
That's
Like,
why I love this
it's
Corona.
far from an ideal situation.
Yeah, I love this Corona call. And if they have to pass a lot, Kyron Williams is going to play 40, 50% of the snaps. I just believe Akers and Henderson are not pass catching threats out of the backfield. And if he's got to get the ball out fast, we could see 5-6 targets today. So just something to keep an eye on for you building your lineups out there. I think Kyron Williams is a sneaky little play in certain situations, like Ghost said, maybe in the afternoon only. So let's move on to the next game here. What you got, Ghost?
We're actually going to talk about this question right here, Derek. So I'm not going to answer it directly, but we're about to in the next minute or two. So a lot of talk about these Washington running backs. Washington Commanders taking on the Houston Texans on the road. 3-point favorites for Taylor Heineke and company. Anything you like in this game? It's a really popular game.
I mean, for me, I mean, I know it's a DFS motto this year. You got to play any running back against the Houston Texans. And who is that running back? Like Derek just asked. And I'm still going and hanging my hat on the B-Rob train. He got 50% more touches last week in the carries game. And I just think if they need a guy to go downhill, which is what Houston's bad at, they just can't stop guys like Henry, Barkley recently, guys that are going downhill. I think Robinson's your guy. So I do like Robinson here. I think he's a good target. I actually think Heineke is a sneaky good low-end DFS play as well. Pair him up with McLaurin if you can, but also I think a guy like Curtis Samuel is solid too. So on the Washington side, I think you got a few decent plays in here that could get you some good points today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the main thing that everyone's going to be focusing on is, do they play Robinson or do they play Gibson? My answer is going to be it really depends on what story you're trying to tell with your lineup, right? If you're getting one Washington piece in there, maybe two, and you're playing Heineke, I would play Robinson because you need that touchdown equity. Gibson's getting just as many touches as Robinson in the red zone, especially at the goal line. It's kind of concerning, and Heineke still has the legs to be able to run one in himself. So that's the one X factor. The only thing with this is that Houston's gash rate is ridiculous, man. They're allowing when a running back runs in between the tackles, they're getting absolutely destroyed.
Yep.
Like it's absolutely absurd. And we've seen Robinson have that talent. And when you allow him to get into the open field, you can't bring him down. And that's why I'm playing B-Rob this week. Gibson is script proof. That's the one thing that I'll mention, is that if you're not sure which way this game is going to go, play Antonio Gibson, because he's going to be active in the passing game. He's still going to get a ton of touches on the ground, and he's still facing the same Houston Texans defense that I just said that I love Robinson playing against, right? So Antonio Gibson is completely script proof, whereas Robinson has that ability to carry the ball 20 plus times and eclipse 100 yards and get into the box, right? So at 5,300, I'm playing Robinson on DK. I'm completely cool if you go to Antonio Gibson. But for me, if you ask me right now to decide for one lineup, who am I playing? I'm playing Robinson.
Yeah,
but like I said, Gibson's going to be script proof. So I'm not going to talk down on Antonio Gibson. If you're playing Gibby, go for it. That being said, on the Houston side of things, I'm completely out on Nico Collins this week. I have 0 Nico Collins. No cash, no tournament, 0. Sorry, Stix. I love you, bro. But it's going to be a hard pass for me. I'm not playing chalk punt wide receivers ever. And Nico Collins just doesn't fit the bill for me there. Davis Mills moving the football. Who I am playing, it's kind of surprising that he's being rostered at a ridiculously high rate, is Dameon Pierce. And the main reason why is because they're going to, if they want to win this game, which every professional sports team wants to win a game when they go and take the field, they're going to have to run the football so much, which is why I am not playing Nico Collins. You have to have that same mindset when you're playing certain guys and fading certain guys from the same team. You have to say, why am I doing this? And the main reason why I'm playing Dameon Pierce and not Nico Collins, in terms of different lineups, they're nowhere near the same price. I'm not saying swap one for one. There's an over $2,000 price difference on DraftKings. What I'm saying is that I'm playing Dameon Pierce because I'm going under the script that this game is going to be really slow. It's a 41-point total. The whole field is obsessed with this game. There's a ton of highly rostered players in this game. Why? It's such a low total. We're not talking about Chiefs Bills in prime time here. Like it's It's Taylor Heineke versus Davis Mills.
Yeah.
And if you are stocking this game, then okay, go for it. Like, by all means, you should be stocking the Washington side. You just named 5 to 6 playmakers that Washington has.
Yeah.
So you should be stacking Taylor Heineke with Terry McLaurin, and Gibson or Robinson or Curtis Samuel, any one of these guys, and running it back with Dameon Pierce and saying, okay, Dameon Pierce is going to run the football and Washington's going to be chasing points. And we need that Washington offense to start clicking. Like, that's the script that I'm going under in this game. I'm completely out on Nico Collins chalk this week. I just can't do it. I really cannot do it.
I'm with you. I think the way to play this game is Washington stack, run back Pearson. I love that strategy. And I don't think I want to get too involved in the Washington full stack, maybe a 2 to 3 most. But I see the potential for them putting up 20 plus today, which, against the Eagles on a showdown slate the other night, if you had 4 Washington Commanders in to pair with 2 Eagles, you took down some decent cash. One question here. Standard 3 league, start 3, Kamara, Pierce, Mixon, Patterson, Ramondre. So it's Kamara, Pierce, and Mixon for me. I don't like to rely on touchdown heavy Patterson when you get volume heavy of the first 3. Ramondre is interesting. It's just with the Harris back, I've tuned down my expectations just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's Kamara and Pierce no matter what. And then your third player, you really can't go wrong with Mixon or Ramondre Stevenson. I'm going to take Ramondre Stevenson in this case, but you really can't go wrong with either one of them. We're going to talk about that Pittsburgh defense towards the end of the show because they're going to be the chalk of the chalk, but they have one playmaker in particular that is making his return to the lineup, and it is extremely concerning for the Bengals offense with no Jamar Chase. Sorry, Jimmy, about that, but your boys might struggle this week. But next game, I know this is one of Stix's favorites. You got the Chicago Bears taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta coming in at this one at home, 3-point favorite. Anything you like in this one? This one's arguably one of the most popular games on the entire slate.
Yeah, there's a ton to like. My favorite running back today is David Montgomery at 6,100. And with no Herbert now, the snap share should be upwards in the 70% range, if not higher. I think it's just a dream matchup for a guy that's underpriced on this slate today. He'll be chalky. I get it. But I still have confidence with Atlanta looking like they've dropped now. If you look at run DVOA, they're sitting at 25th. They're allowing the 23rd most points to fantasy running backs. We've already seen, and I've said this before, but Dante Foreman chewed them up in 2 of the last 3 games. I think Montgomery's a really nice spot. I think they might even have to dedicate a linebacker spy to really, watch Justin Fields, which will give, the inside of the line a little bit more room to block. So I like Montgomery a lot. I think Mooney's in play too on the Chicago side. I've been on Fields on this show several times. Today's probably one of the first days. I'm not so sure I'm all the way there at 7,600. I do think I'll play him in some lineups. But that thing, someone's got to stop him from running from 150. I'm not sure it's the Falcons, so that's why I'll play him. But that's what I like on the Bears side. I think I'm a low ownership on Fields, probably a 10-15% range, but Montgomery's going to be a smash.
I'm really concerned with David Montgomery chalk, man.
The chalk scares me.
I'm gonna be the one to say it. Jay always says that I've never been one to not share my opinion when it comes to stuff like this. David Montgomery chalk, man, it's nauseating. I'm doing it in cash. You have to.
Yeah.
Right now, I have 0 in tournaments. I can't do it. Mr. 2.5 yards per carry. I can't do it. I just can't do it. You look at what Justin Fields is doing with his legs. I'm anywhere that I would play David Montgomery, I'm just finding a way to play Justin Fields with either Cole Kmet or Mooney, and that's it. And I'm praying that David Montgomery doesn't fall into the end zone 3 times. That's what it is. That's what it is. No. Look, let me make myself crystal clear for everyone in chat, because I'm sure this is the very first time you're hearing this from anybody in the industry. I am not playing David Montgomery in tournaments. I am 100% playing him in cash. You have to. I'm even cool with playing Justin Fields and David Montgomery in cash together. That's what I'm doing. But I am playing absolutely donut 0 of David Montgomery in tournaments. It's not happening. I'm not playing a running back that I call Mr. 2.3 yards per carry. It's not happening. Atlanta's run defense is an absolute funnel. And that's, if it was any other matchup, it would be the biggest slam dunk fade of all time. Even in cash games, I wouldn't play him. Even in cash games, you could be 80% roster, I wouldn't play him. But you have to play him because it's Atlanta. And knowing him, I'm not going to play him in tournaments, and he's going to fall into the end zone 3 times. But what I'm saying is I'm not playing him in tournaments because I'm not stomaching the fact that he's going to end up 30+% roster in tournaments. And if you're not getting 18 points out of this guy, it's not worth it. There's one running back that I'm playing. I can't do it. I have other pivots in that range. It's not like I'm just saying don't play him and then I'm leaving you guys hanging. No, I have a pivot that I plan on fully playing over David Montgomery, and that's my one call. I'm really hoping that he outscores David Montgomery, and I think that's the situation. All that to say that you have to play him in cash. He's an absolute lock button in cash. Make sure we hit up, by the way, when we end up giving out our course towards the end of the show. We need to get to 100 likes, guys. So please smash that like button. See ya. If you're not hitting the like button for me and Dave, make sure you're absolutely smashing that like button for Sia, because he has the nicest hair in the entire industry, and everyone knows that. So if you want to see more Sia on every one of our networks, including SiriusXM, of course, make sure that you guys are absolutely smashing that like button for us. But you'll see with my course towards the end, David Montgomery will be in the cash games, but I am playing 0 in tournaments. Justin Fields in cash is the guy's on an absolute heater. You can still do it.
Cash. For sure. You
can do it in cash. I'm absolutely cool with it. And I'm cool with Mooney or Kmet. I think there's a lot of tight end options on this week. A lot of people going double tight ends. I'm not going double tight end anywhere. But if you're playing Kmet, it's because you're playing Fields. I wouldn't just play Kmet just like that. I would play Fields at that point. And on the Atlanta side of things, Sticks would be blowing up my phone if I didn't mention Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, he's my favorite. Yep.
And Sticks has been saying this 5 days ago, since Tuesday, actually. He's been saying that it's Kyle Pitts week. So I do want to mention that for Sticks. Chicago's pass defense is nowhere near where it needs to be, and Kyle Pitts is being targeted in the past couple weeks here. They're finally drawing up plays for their best offensive players. So I'm cool with Pitts or Drake London on the offensive side of the ball. I know Pitts. I know Pitts. I know Sticks has a ton of love for Pitts, and he's also playing Marcus Mariota as well. So I did want to mention that for our boy who is probably listening into the show, probably somewhere in his house right now, but he's probably sneaking away. But I did want to mention Kyle Pitts for him. Anything else you like in this game?
No, Pitts, I just wanted to add on that. He's one of my favorite tight ends. Sanborn, the linebacker who's in for Roquan Smith since the trade, allowing the third most points per reception to tight end. So I just think it's a dream matchup for a team that will want to try and run the ball, which will also open up the middle of the field for Pitts. So I do like Pitts a lot today. And I appreciate everybody's comments on the Montgomery. Like I said, it is chalky, but, chalk, you're going to have to hit one or two chalks. So if it's Montgomery or not, we'll see. And totally, I think that's a great way to attack, chalk in any situation. Either you live with it and you eat it, or you totally fade it 100%. So I really like that strategy.
Absolutely. Here I'm going Brian Robinson, no question. I don't know if you're on the same page. For me, it's not even a debate. I'm going Brian Robinson 100%. Jeff with a double question. Tight end value for FanDuel. Pitts at 5,500, Dolchich at 5,500. Those are probably the two guys, and Kmet at 57. I'd rank them Pitts, Dolchich, and then Kmet probably. That's what I'm doing. And then Burrow or Fields, I'm taking Justin Fields.
I am, yeah, yep.
It pains me to say.
Pittsburgh. Yeah,
it pains me to say because I'm always a Go Tigers stat guy. Everyone knows that, but it's not a Go Tigers week this week, obviously. So that's going to be no. Brian, we'll get to your question right now. Last Gus, Edwards, B-Rob, or Gibby. If it's a GPP, man, I'm cool with Antonio Gibson. I am playing Brian Robinson everywhere. For me, it's going to be one of the Washington backs. I know Sticks likes Gibson for tournaments as well. I'm going with either one of the go with your gut with either one of the Washington backs. I'm playing Brian Robinson. I know I have a ton of love for Antonio Gibson also, though. It's not going to be Gus Bus for me, though.
Yeah, I like either of the last two. We'll talk about Baltimore in a little bit. I like Drake a lot in that game, but yeah.
Okay, we'll get to this one last question before we keep going here. I need to Kamara, Mixon, Pollard. We're going to talk about Tony Pollard.
Kamara, Pollard.
When I said that I'm not playing David Montgomery, we're going to talk about Tony Pollard.
Kamara and Pollard. I think in those two is a really – there was an interesting talk.
Yeah.
We had a text on the side this morning. Pollard's rushing total went up by like 10 or 12 yards this morning.
Yeah.
So I think the realization that he's going to get most of the carries is here. I think we've all assumed that in the industry this week. Absolutely. And now Gus is out, as we're saying, is Cedric just checked in. So, yeah, I was in on Drake anyway, and we'll get into that. But interesting.
There you go. This game, I'm cool with completely skipping it unless there's anything that you want to talk about. The Jets taking on the Pats, interdivision game here. Anything really low total in this one, 37.5.
I mean, the only guy I guess you could get involved with is Garrett Wilson. But outside of that, maybe Conklin, but no. And those are just cash plays. I don't want anything of this game in tournaments. Yeah,
that's it. The only two guys that are pretty much pulling some rostership here early on are Garrett Wilson for the Jets and Ramondre Stevenson for the Pats. This game's going to be really slow. Jets defense looks surprisingly half decent. It's the one thing I'll say. Just be aware, Garrett Wilson is technically the number one option right now, and you're putting a rookie wide receiver up against a Bill Belichick-led defense, expecting him to produce, and he's chalk.
Yep.
It's gonna be peace out for me on anyone from this game. But we'll roll on to the next one. This one's got some sneaky appeal. I want to talk about this game. The Detroit Lions taking on the New York Giants. New York at home as 3-point favorites. 44.5 point total in this one. Detroit's putting up some points and they got some playmakers. And anything you wanna touch on here?
Yeah, again, in the chalk atmosphere, Barkley's got to be in play for a lot of your GPPs and cash. I think, Lions let up 258, 260, something like that on the ground last week to Chicago. A lot of it was Fields, but in the same breath, Barkley got 35 carries, I think, last week. And there's just nothing for Daniel Jones to throw to. I mean, absolutely nothing. I think Wan'Dale Robinson's out. So I think it's going to be a heavy Saquon day. It's also windy up here in the Northeast. This one's in New York, right? Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's in New York. Yeah, it's in New York.
Yeah, so I just think it's got to be a script of running the ball quite a bit against a soft Lions front. So that's all I like on the Giants side. On the Lions side, New York's kind of sneaky. They'll throw some decent rush numbers at you, but if you look a little deeper, you can run against them. I think Detroit could be in line for a decent game on the ground as well. And I kind of lean towards Williams. I just think he's the more physical back. They'll get more of those touches. Yes, Swift's a home run hitter, but I don't love a lot in this game. It's mainly the running game.
The main reason why I have interest in this game is because of the story that Vegas is saying. All the money is coming in on New York, an absurd amount of money. And the line moved in favor of Detroit.
That tells you something.
It tells you something, man. It really does tell you something. They're itching to get more people to bet on the Giants. Vegas obviously knows everything, and they know what's up. All the money coming in on the Giants. People are continuing to absolutely hammer the Giants in all of their sports betting tickets. And the line's moving in favor of Detroit. This offense is going to put up some points because they can't win 13-10 football games. Total's pretty high at 44.5 for a Detroit Giants game. Detroit versus the New York Giants at 44.5. That's high for the circumstances.
Yeah.
So I think Detroit ends up putting up a ton of points here. And I do like Saquon for cash. If you could afford him, by all means. If you have that luxury this week, go for it. You have the brightest green light of all time to play Saquon Barkley in cash games. That being said, I just don't know if I could get there with Justin Fields, right? So there's a couple wide receivers that I want to play that don't allow me to play Saquon. But if you can get there, absolutely do it. Darius Slayton acting as the wide receiver 1 makes for a half decent pivot to Wilson chalk in that Jets game. He's still being rostered at a fairly decent amount, but in that 5K range, there's a ton of guys that they're all getting looks in terms of who the field is rostering. So if you want to go to Darius Slayton in the Giants passing game, him and Daniel Jones, by all means. I'm personally attacking more the Lions side of things. I absolutely love Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. Absolutely. And stop me if you heard me say this again, because it feels like 11 weeks in a row that we've been saying this, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is with everybody playing CeeDee Lamb, and I do love, we're going to talk about that Dallas offense. I'm not saying don't close the show and say, oh, he's playing Amon-Ra St. Brown over CeeDee. I got my pivot. No. We're going to talk about the Dallas game because I have so much CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard today that I'm riding with the Cowboys. But at the same time, I absolutely love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Whether you're stacking him with Goff, or not, I'm cool with a mini stack this week, paying up, getting different, and getting 2 studs in this game, and with Saquon Barkley and Amon-Ra St. Brown. You could stack it with Jared Goff, man. Like, obviously, am I a fan of Jared Goff on the road?
No.
Not as much. When you look at his splits, he's way better when he's at home. But at the same time, you look at his opponents on the road, it's way tougher than who he's playing at home, right? And the Giants, granted, they've earned their respect at 7-2. They've definitely earned their respect. I'm not here to bash the Giants at 7-2. But they're nowhere near that 7-2 team. Like when you look at the Eagles with the record that they're sitting at, and the Giants are 1 game behind them, you're like, okay, these teams are not even in the same stratosphere, right? So that's just a scenario what it is. I have faith in the Detroit Lions today. I am playing golf in what's called NME tournaments in large field contests. I am playing Jared Goff, absolutely, and I'm stacking him with Amon-Ra St. Brown, running it back with either Darius Slayton or Saquon Barkley. It really depends on which playmakers you want to get across your lineup, but I want the big boys in this one. There's going to be a ton of production.
Yeah, I like the Slayton call there. He has the ability to break one. That's the best thing about Slayton. He wasn't doing well last week and then turned a 3-yard out into a 60-yard touchdown. So, and against a Detroit D, I think Slayton's a really nice call there for a lot of core lineups too. And even if he's a one-off off this game, I think Slayton could be that guy off this game that you play a little bit.
Absolutely. Especially in that 5K range, there's a lot of guys that everyone's hesitant to go to one or the other, right? So if you plant your flag on someone, don't be afraid to do it on Darius Slayton. They're gonna. I think the Giants are gonna be chasing points in this one. Vegas is telling us something, but do with that info as you will. We'll get to a couple of questions because we're almost halfway through the slate here. Jacoby or Rondale?
Oh, look, I love Rondale. If they go away from Rondale just because Hollywood's in, that'd be a shame because the guy is just balling. So I'd hang my flag today on Rondale and just see where they go. I just don't like that Jets game.
I'm on the same wavelength. For me, it's you look at what Kyler Murray does on offense, and he's going to go with the guys that he's extremely comfortable with. And you could even put DeAndre Hopkins in that conversation. I don't know if he's more comfortable with anybody other than Rondale Moore right now. I think he's even more comfortable with Rondale Moore than he is with DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm with everybody not playing Rondale. I'm absolutely cool with playing him. I like to go a little contrarian there, and what is one of the elite offenses in the league, at least on paper.
Yeah, and then we got this one. Oh, you got one.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
All right, let's Russell Wilson or Jimmy G. I don't even know if I guess for me, I'd go Jimmy G. Russell Wilson's one good game this year was against the Raiders. He scored, I think, 27.5 DK points. So I could see you getting there. Without Judy, and now we've already talked about the guys they might have to piece in there. And he's already been horrific without, some studs, and now he's got third of duds. I'll just lean Jimmy. But it hurts. I think either one, my stomach hurts.
Yeah. This is I'm hoping that this is a season-long question. And
yeah.
DFS, I would try and get anywhere else other than these guys, but you gotta play Jimmy. Oh man, no, probably. Yeah. I think I'm going Russ. I'll never play Jimmy G. I was about to say Jimmy G, and I have this thing where I will refuse to play Jimmy G. He could be the only quarterback on the state, and I'll play a backup quarterback with 0 points before I play Jimmy G.
I don't blame it. It's just that Cardinals secondary is so bad. But yeah,
it's terrible. It's terrible. Yeah, I just I'll take Russell Wilson in a tighter game at home. Hopefully he turns things around. He just has no playmakers right now, man.
I'll give one to Brian too. I'm interested in where you stand on this because I actually stand on, and we're going to get this game, the Singletary Schultz combo. And I love Pollard today.
Man, that's a good one. It's a good question.
I love Schultz more than, I love Schultz a ton today. He's wide receiver number 2 in that offense. Knox could go zeros.
It's the best question we've gotten all day.
I know.
I have so much love for Tony Pollard, man. I just don't know if I could get there with Knox. It's not a bad option. It's a really good question. Make one of each, man. But I think if I have to, I don't really like Devin Singletary today. I called Devin Singletary last week, and I'm not feeling it this week. I'll go Singletary Schultz just because of Dalton Schultz. But
that's where
I in tournaments, I'd take Pollard Knox just because of the risk factor there.
Yeah.
Risk it for the big. Yeah, Brian, hit me up in Discord. I'll send you one. That was a great question, man. Hit me up in Discord.
Good stuff.
Next game, we got a bit of weather in this one. I think you were telling me, right? Carolina taking on Baltimore. Baker Mayfield back under center for the Panthers here.
Yep.
What are we doing with this game? This is nauseating. This one.
It is. And what we're hearing is, 30-mile-per-hour winds, steady down there, gust over 40. I just think Kenyon Drake is a great pivot play today for this game. Maybe just stick with one or two players in this game and run. I got nothing on the Carolina side, especially with Baker in play. I don't care. DJ Moore was invisible with Baker, so he's done. Terrace Marshall is a hit or miss, but he needs PJ as well. And Deontay Foreman, Baltimore's okay against the run. They're worse against the pass. So I'm off Carolina, but I love me some Drake Tay. And I love L-Jax. I still think there's good value in his game today. Andrews coming back is definitely going to help some things out. We don't need to rip the ball too far in the wind to get it to Andrews. So I think Lamar Jackson is the beneficiary more of Mark Andrews being in. I'm not on Andrews today. I like Pitts 2,200 less. So I'll go Jackson and Drake and then kind of run from the rest.
Yeah, I'm full fading this game. This one's I'm completely crossing off my list. But yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Lamar Jackson has the ability, as same thing with Patrick Mahomes, same thing with Josh Allen. These guys can put up legitimate 40 plus DK points at any time and break the slate. So if you're playing Lamar,
and their
Jackson,
implied team total, they have implied team total of 27. Yeah, so that's a 3 touchdown.
One of the highest on the slate.
Yeah. That's why I'm getting some Baltimore love on my side. Just that implied team total is so high.
I dig it, and no one's playing them. No one's rostering these guys. So I'm cool with it. This next game, thankfully it was moved. Cleveland taking on Buffalo. 6 feet of snow in Buffalo. So if any of our listeners are out there in Buffalo, please be safe. Hope everything is okay. Hope everyone still has power at home and everything. Everything's going as smooth as it can go, but. Buffalo Bills now playing a home game, I guess on the road, you could say. We're taking on Cleveland Browns. This game really high total, man, 50.5. What are we doing with this one?
Listen, you might be with me or you might not, but I think Josh Allen knows the reason for them losing some recent games is all on his arm. He made some terrible decisions in the Minnesota game. He was pissed. He made some terrible decisions the week before, and I think it might be one of those Josh Allen get-right games. Cleveland's 32nd against the rush in DVOA. And I'm not saying that's all the reasons to go to Singletary. I'm saying that's all the reasons I think Josh Allen busts out over his rushing total as well. I think this is a big game, especially indoors. I think they want to give the fans something to be proud about and be happy about as they're getting pounded with snow. I think it's a Josh Allen get-right game, and I could see myself stacking. It's expensive to stack Diggs. Probably want to take a step down to Davis, but I like Josh Allen a lot as one of my QB1 or 2s this week.
Absolutely. This is one of my main lineups. It's not the main lineup, but it is going to be one of my main lineups. Playing Allen, and I'm going. It's Gabe Davis weeks.
Yeah, it's a
Gabe Davis week.
I like
it. For any of you that have been here for multiple years, we are the OG founders of Gabe Davis. Everyone knows that. But it's a Gabe Davis week. Absolutely. Against this type of defense, 100% of the way, I'm going Gabe Davis. The reason why I was out on Singletary, which is the exact same reason that you said, which is why I was hesitant with that answer to Brian's question. It's a Josh Allen statement game, man. Like, he needs to come out here and let everybody know that he is still one of, if not the best QB in the league. And he's going to do it on the ground. He's going to make things happen on his own if he has to. Like, it's almost like that scene from Longest Yard when Adam Sandler takes a snap and he just starts running without his helmet on. Like, that's what Josh Allen is going to be today. Like, he will go out and just do things on his own. He absolutely has to. So it's 100% a Gabe Davis week. I'm okay with Knox if you have to. I'd rather not. But with everybody playing literally every other tight end on the slate, I'm cool with that. The touchdown equity is there. Gabe Davis week. I'm playing
Gabe Davis week with Gleck and the Ghost. There's all these threes. Jeez, I love it. Yeah, I love it, Tony.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
No, I liked it too. I was on Gabe more than Stefan, and I still think Stefan will pop. I just think you get better value at 2,000 less. So I think it's an all around huge game for the Bills. We saw what Miami did to Cleveland last week. Waddle and Hill both had, I think, 7+ receptions. So I still both could get there. It'll just be hard with a full stack there. So I like the Allen to Davis combo. On the flip side, listen, they're waiting on Watson to come back, right? They're praying for him to come back because right now they're leaking some heavy oil, the Cleveland Browns. I could get there with Peoples-Jones is probably my favorite play on the Cleveland side. He's just a weapon for them in, the receiving game, and it looks like Brissett, kind of trusts him. So I'm there. I don't know if I'm in love with Chubb. As much as he gets volume, it's a tough defense to make your ways against. Dalvin Cook did it last week because he went for 80 yards on one run. Let's remember that. Otherwise, he was 2 yards a carry. So I think the only thing I really see myself getting into, Hunter Bryant, you could convince me maybe a little bit too, but probably just Peoples-Jones on that side.
Yeah, Peoples-Jones probably going to be my primary run back. I think they get Kareem Hunt a little more involved this week. I can't get there, but I would love to see Kareem Hunt more involved in this offense. Amari Cooper is a good player. I just can't really get if you can fit Amari Cooper in the run back, he's my preferred option. But I'm going down in Peoples-Jones, right? So that's the one thing. Yeah, Amari Cooper. Brian, you know that as a Cowboys fan, I know this all too well. Amari Cooper, I'm not a trends guy. Everyone knows that, but Amari Cooper on the road is just so frustrating, right? So
good point, Brian, about Joker. I've seen that too. I just don't know if I trust it coming off the injury. So then no full Harrison Bryant. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was a sneaky play last week, which actually paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, I already told you, hit me up in Discord for that. Do I start Swift or Najee? You got to win this week. Where are you going? You going Najee or Swift?
Najee has started to get, I really think they're going to start to get more of a timeshare in the backfield with Najee. I'm going with Swift. I just think you already talked about that potential in the higher total than we anticipated. I'm going with Swift.
Yep. I'm on the exact same page. Couldn't send it better myself. Chark or Raymond, I'm taking DJ Chark. I don't care if it's his first week back. I don't care if it's his second back on the field. 4.2K.
Anything over Raymond.
Outscored Paris Campbell and Nico Collins at 4.2K. DJ Chark can go for a 75-yard touchdown on one play, and I would sleep like a baby. So, Amari Cooper or Gabe Davis? I'm taking Gabe Davis. Ride or die with Gabe Davis this week. Absolutely. Najee or Swift, we just covered.
And don't get too excited about what Justin Jefferson did to Buffalo last week. I think he had the least yards of separation in his career when he put up that game. Those were all contested catches. So I think Bills' pass defense, especially against number ones, is real solid. That's why DPJ is even more intriguing for me.
They're doing a great job without Tre'Davious White, man. They're missing one, obviously their best DB and one of the best DBs in the league, in Tre'Davious White, and they're still they're great defense, all around great, well-rounded team. Everyone knows how good the Buffalo Bills are, but I'm really impressed with how their defense has picked up the slack. But we only got 3 afternoon games. The first one being Las Vegas taking on Broncos country. Let's ride.
Yeah,
they're somehow favored by 2.5. I don't get it. Their offense has looked like I just don't get it. What are we doing in this game? What are we doing?
Hey, last night on Sirius, I said my bet of the day is the Raiders, and I'm going to stick with it. I think a lot of what you just said, you can't get it, and I agree with that. But the other thing, finally, Mark Davis comes out and gives a vote of confidence to not only his coach, but his quarterback. And I think that just takes a lot of pressure off them today, and they play a little more free. Josh Jacobs had one of his best games against Denver earlier in the season. Denver shows as one of the top defenses in the league, but honestly, they're 20th against the rush DVOA. I think Jacobs is in a spot here that he could get under-owned, undervalued, and it will be a slower paced game. Got it. But Jacobs is my favorite play on the silver and black side. I could get a little bit with Moreau. Waller is just, he's out for a while still with that hamstring. So Adams, I just don't like. I don't like anybody against Surtain. I don't care, who it is, and Adams is obviously one of the best. There's just not enough space and separation against a quality quarterback like that. So I'm looking at Jacobs and Moreau from the Raider side.
I like it. I like Devontae Adams for tournaments. When you look at what Carr has to do today, and he's got I don't want to say he's losing his job. Obviously, he got that vote of confidence, but that's when you're in that kind of situation and you get that vote of confidence, you kind of know there's an asterisk beside it, and you can't just, they're sitting at 2-7 right now. They need to shake things up here. And where's he going to go now? He's going to absolutely pepper Davante Adams with targets, right? So whether that results in the type of performances that Davante Adams used to have when he was playing with Aaron Rodgers, he still has that upside, right? So that's the one thing that I was saying when we're talking about contested catches. Davante Adams is one of the best to do it in the league.
Sure.
So I don't mind taking that shot. Is it going to be my main lineup? Absolutely not. But these are all scenarios that I'm trying to lay out for large field tournaments. I'm okay going Carr and Adams in a stack. I'm absolutely okay with that. I even get the ground game with Jacobs in there. I would play Carr with Jacobs with Davante Adams. You get 100% of the Raiders offense. And right now, the Broncos are favored in this one. So obviously, Vegas thinks that somebody's going to be putting up points here. And C alluded to it earlier, like right at the beginning of the show with Hinton. If he can't suit up, or if he's even just mildly banged up, do not overlook Jalen Virgil. Like he's a speedster. And when we're talking about punt wide receivers, I wish Russ can throw the deep ball the way that he used to. But at the end of the day, like I'm trying to get over that fact by the fact that he's the Stone Cold minimum on DraftKings, and it opens up the absolute world. If Hinton is even just slightly banged up, all these injuries has never stopped Russ from spraying the ball around. So I'm even okay with him with taking shots on him. I'm completely out on Courtland Sutton chalk. It pains me to say this as a Courtland Sutton fan. I just can't get there.
And it's because the quarterback.
Yeah, I can't stomach it. If I'm taking a shot on the Denver offense, I want a really, really cheap option. Like I don't want to pay $6K for Courtland Sutton and say, oh, I need him to outscore Terry McLaurin. Like, no. I'm not doing that to myself. It's not happening. I want to have a good Sunday. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that to myself. A stress-free Sunday is what I need. I can't do this. So I'm okay with either Hinton or Virgil. Dolchich obviously going to be chalk of the chalk at tight end. Both he and Dalton Schultz and guys like that. Komet as well is likely going to get a ton of looks. All these guys are going to have to get the ball. That's the one thing that I'll say. And they're all really cheap. The one guy that I'm out on is Courtland Sutton. Can Courtland Sutton be the only guy that catches a football today? Absolutely. It's 100% possible. But at the same time, I can't stomach $6K for him. It's not happening. And on the Raiders side of things, I already gave my stack. I'm with you on Josh Jacobs. They didn't. I'm going to keep reminding people about this. They did not pick up his fifth-year option. They don't care about running Josh Jacobs into the ground.
30.
And they will give this guy 20-plus carries every game if they want. He's not on the team next year. So, and Josh Jacobs needs to perform because he needs a contract next year. So, I am playing Carr with Jacobs and Davante Adams in large field tournaments. And I'm running it back with one of these 3K options, whether it be Dolchich, whether it be Hinton, whether it be Virgil. Either one of them. It makes for a really affordable stack, and you could still get other playmakers in other games.
I love it. I mean, listen, when Jacobs has got 20-plus carries, they're 2-2. You say, oh, well, that's not that great. Well, they only have 2 wins, right? They're 0-5 when he doesn't. So
that's a 100% win rate. Like that's what it is. Like their only wins are when he gets carries. So
yep, they need to get him the ball, and they need to get it with volume. So I like Jacobs a lot on Denver side, and you're correct. I think the cheap options at receiver are the best. Raiders 32nd against the pass in DVOA, so you got to get some shares of that Denver pass game. As ugly as it is, I think Dulcich will be the number one. But after that, I like your options in the cheaper range. I'm off the Denver running game. I don't care if 1 or 2 of them sneak in touchdowns. They're not going to go for 20. It's just I don't have enough brain cells to figure out who they're going to give it to anymore. I'm done with figuring out the Denver run game.
It's even more than a carousel at this point. It's like a full-fledged merry-go-round in Walt Disney World. Like, it doesn't make sense.
And Hackett's not calling the plays, so do they like another one better? I don't know. It's not worth the time or effort. So
no, I can't get there. But second to last game on this one, since he taking on the Steelers. But before I pass to you, I just want to say one thing. The main reason why we're talking Steelers defense, Minkah Fitzpatrick somehow playing this game. I don't know how. He's playing, and he's suited and booted. He's ready to go. It's the one reason why everyone's playing Steelers defense. They have some serious playmakers back. The Steelers defense is getting healthy. That's the one thing that I'll say. But anything you like in this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, correlation or not, last week, I liked Pittsburgh a lot against New Orleans, and it was Watt coming back, right? And it's funny. You think one DN, how can they just play that much better? But he really does make everything better. And if we go back to week 1 against the Bengals, I mean, he was a havoc. Don't hold me to this, but Barrow 4 or 5 interceptions in week 1. It was horrible. He had no time back there. So Pittsburgh really is kind of a good spot defensively to put up points, even if they let up 23, because they're just going to be so involved in the sack game and creating some turnovers somewhere. So I can understand why people like Pittsburgh's D. For me on Cincy's side, I like T. Higgins. I'm almost always going to like T. Higgins when Chase is out. And I like Hayden Hurst. I think Hayden Hurst becomes their wide receiver 3. Outside of Boyd and Higgins, Hurst has got 4+ catches in 4 of his last 5 games. He averages just about 10 points, and you're sitting there with a guy at 3,500. If he can get a touchdown, that 10 becomes 16, 18. He becomes your commit from the past couple of weeks. So I like Hurst a lot, and I like Higgins in the pass game. I don't think they're going to be able to do much in the run game. Mixon will get some yards. Don't get me wrong. I'll even pop a touchdown. Not going to get 5. And on the flip side, man, what to do with this Pittsburgh offense? Deontay Johnson should be in for a game, but I don't think I can pay for anything on the Pittsburgh offense. Where are you at?
I coin flip between him and Pickens. Deontay's going to get a ton of looks. Pickens
he should, right?
Bigger playmaker. I'll take Pickens, but I'm cool with either one of them. I played Deontay Johnson in cash last week, and I absolutely made so much money last week with Deontay Johnson because nobody played. And he got a ton of looks, and he was sitting there at like 5.5K or something, and he had his classic stat line where he got 12 DK, didn't get in the box, but take a 2.5x all day at that price range, especially for a cash game. So am I playing him in cash this week? Absolutely not. But him or Pickens in tournament stocks. And the one thing that you can do also is that just by playing any Cincy guys, you're automatically getting leverage on the field, right? Because everyone's playing the Steelers D. So if you're stocking the other way, let alone just playing, if you're playing one option, let alone full-fledged stocking the Bengals today, it's an interesting strategy that can pay off. And I'd personally run it back with one of Pickens or Deontay Johnson. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and with Deontay, I mean, with the Bengals, I should say, their strength is deep in the secondary. I think underneath is where you can really attack them. So I think Deontay is probably my favorite of those two, but he costs a little more. So I don't see anyone going wrong. Don't play them both, but, have some shares of both Deontay and Pickens. I like it.
Absolutely. The last game on the slate, which is my favorite one. Saved it for last.
Yep.
Dallas taking on Minnesota on the road. I'll let you tee this one off.
Well, first on the Dallas side, I got Pollard in so many season-long fantasy leagues, and I've loved him every week that he gets more than 50% of touches. And I'm not scared today. And obviously news coming out that Zeke, I think, is going to be activated but limited. I think it's a big Pollard day. Once again, Minnesota, first off, they play a lot of zone defense. So they're not great anywhere against the rush, but I think they can expose them. I think Pollard is a stud running back. Looking at their 14th in DVOA against the rush. So I'm big on Pollard today. I'm also big on CD Lamb and Schultz for a lot of the things that we just talked about. But CD, in zone, he has the 4th most yards per route run in zone coverage. So I think if they settle there, and listen, he's not going to be on the outside matchup against Peterson. He's going to be on the inside matchup against one of their worst cornerbacks. And I think CD Lamb, he's chalky too, right? Maybe one of the chalkiest of the wide receivers, but I think he's in for a huge day. Same with Schultz. What do you have? 6 for 56 in a TD last week. With Dak in there, 100% that he's going to be a big target again today. So I look for, I might not get as much Dak as I want. I look for Pollard, CD, Schultz.
This game is my main stack. It's going to be Dak Prescott at quarterback. I'm all in on this Cowboys offense this week. They're going to have to put up a ton of points to win this game. And that division it's tight like a toiga. Let me tell you. It's really tight. So they're going to have an ideal situation with them having to win out. They have some tough matchups. Eagles got a really easy schedule towards the end of the season. they got to keep up with the Giants, man. That's what it is. And Washington looks pretty good right now too. So that whole division, it's I'm 100% all in on this Cowboys offense. It's not as pretty as stacking the Chiefs or stacking the Bills or anything like that. They could hang with the best of them. And this is one of those weeks. I'm playing Dak. I'm not playing David Montgomery, as I alluded to before. I am 100% playing Tony Pollard everywhere in tournaments, everywhere. I've seen this situation with Zeke before.
Yeah,
that means he's not okay. And despite him being active, he's going to be there because he needs to block. And Tony Pollard, I don't want to say he can't block, but when Tony Pollard's featured on offense, they don't want him out there blocking because the man can't have a 100% snap share. Zeke's going to be out there to block. Tony Pollard's going to get nearly every touch on offense this week. And that's what I want. At 6,500, it's almost to the point where I'm playing him and Pierce, whatever, but I'm even leaning Pollard around. They're like, I'm that much all in on Tony Pollard this week. So Zeke's a great run blocker. I still have a lot of love for Zeke in DFS. Absolutely not. In fantasy season long, he's riding bench. Absolutely not. I'm still a Zeke fan. I'm just one of those guys. He's not as washed as everyone says. But when you look at him, he still runs well through the tackles, and he had one of the best. For me to compare running backs, man, not to go on a complete tangent, but to compare running backs, you got to do it in their first 5 years, because that first contract stint is where they'll do their most damage on their rookie deal. And for me, that's Zeke is top, man. And when you look at his first 5 years in the league, it was absolutely absurd. But that contract's gonna age like some milk that's left on the counter for a couple of weeks. But that's what it is. We'll
Todd Gurley, all over.
Ride or die with our boys. But this week, guys, I'm playing Tony Pollard everywhere I can. Is it risky? Absolutely. For all I know, Zeke goes out there and gets 25 touches, man. You know what it is with these kinds of reports. Oh, this guy's gonna be featured. This guy's gonna be featured. Blah blah blah. You see it, everyone knows that my first sport is NBA too, and see it in NBA all the time. Oh, this guy's gonna be limited 2 minutes after lock. Oh, he's scratched. Guy's been in street clothes. He didn't even know you know what I mean? It's just what it is. So, is it to that point where he's not gonna play? No, because they would have had to call up a running back, obviously, or elevate one from the practice squad. But I really do think that the scenario that I'm outplaying in my head, Dak is going to throw the ball an immense amount of times. Pollard's going to get the bulk of the touches on offense. Zeke is going to go out there when they're in 3 to 4 wide receiver sets, and it's Dak in the shotgun with Zeke blocking. That's where I think Zeke is going to do most of his damage. He's going to be able to protect Dak. That offensive line is still elite. It's nowhere near where it used to be, though. So that's why they need Zeke out there, and he could still block with the best of them. I'm in on Schultz, 100% in on Lamb. I'm so committed to this game. I'm trying everything in my power to run it back with Justin Jefferson, man. It's to that point.
Yeah.
And that's where guys like Ben Skronik come into play. It's just, if that's what I have to do to get exposure to this game, it's going to sail over the total. It's 100% where all my eggs are in this basket. It's this game.
Now, let me ask you, would you like Cousins or Dak better in this one? Cousins has thrown over 40 5 of his 9 games. So he's a guy that I think if you get in the script that you're talking about, heavy Cowboys offense, who do you think outperforms at quarterback there? It sounds like you like Dak better, but I could see Cousins run back.
I'm taking Dak because I like the options better because I want to full-fledged stack this game. Okay. I don't want to it's mainly because of that. I like the skill position players on Dallas better than the Minnesota ones. Because the way that the build shapes up, it's not easy. It's by no means it's not like everyone is stone cold minimum price. But what I'm saying is that on the Minnesota side of things, see, that for me is not enough. I'm 4 to 5 man stacking this game. I'm 4 to 5 manning it. I'm that all in on this game. You look at the weather concerns with some elite offenses. Other guys are missing some of their best players. And Vegas is telling us a story with the games like Detroit versus New York. This is the one game where the line hasn't moved. Money is pretty even on both sides. A lot of people like the Vikings because they're at home. A lot of people like the Cowboys because they think they're the better offense or the better team. This is the game for me. This is 100% the game, and I want more than that. I don't just want JJ and Schultz. Like that for me, it's like, okay, like because if you're playing Justin Jefferson, you want him to go absolutely nuclear. You want him to break the slate. How is he breaking the slate if your run back is just Dalton Schultz? Like, no disrespect, Dalton Schultz. I'm playing Dalton Schultz. I don't take that as I'm throwing shade at Dalton Schultz, but you need CD in there. You need Pollard. You need Dak to be throwing for 3-4 touchdowns. Like, you need this game to be going back and forth, right? And that's the main thing, is that if I'm playing Justin Jefferson, I need the Cowboys players to be able to make him have that ceiling game. And in order to do that, I got to stack Dak because I want him throwing for 3-4 touchdowns. Right. So
yeah,
that's the main thing.
I think that's the way to attack it. I will have some Cousins love in my lineups, Brian. So I just think if they get down early, which I kind of expect the game to go that way, I do think Cousins is in line for a good passing game. Let's answer this one, 6,600, and then we'll get back to anything you like on Minnesota. I guess for me, I still think it's Pierce. I'm close between Pierce and Pollard, but I just think the volume that I expect in that Washington game, and where, Pollard's a straight GPP, could be a home run. So it's close. I'm torn between Pierce and Pollard, but I'll lean Pierce to answer your question.
I'm taking Gabe Davis or Pollard. All my eggs are in the same baskets, as I've been saying throughout the show there. If you don't have Gabe Davis in your lineup, it's Gabe Davis. You do need some form of exposure to that Buffalo offense today. And if you already have Gabe Davis, it's going to be Tony Pollard all day. That's it. We'll get to our top plays. There are no more questions here. So I just wanted to touch on this like one last quick second, actually. If you are stocking the Minnesota side of things, I would go Kirk with Hawkinson and JJ, running back with CeeDee Lamb. Like that would be, you'd have to force that in. You'd have to jam that in. And if the rest of the lineup doesn't work, which is like, for me, it's kind of what I was running into. That's why I'm stocking the Dallas side of things. So that's the main thing. I wouldn't have Schultz as my main Cowboy run back if you're stacking the Minnesota side of things. You would have to force in CD 100% of the way. But we will get to our top plays just now.
Yep.
We'll go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, as usual. Before we get into that, the defenses, guys, are Pittsburgh's going to be the chocolate chalk, just as well as the New Orleans versus LA Rams. Both defenses are going to be popular in that game. We talked about the Pats and we talked about the Jets as well. So those are the five that we're kind of narrowing down. Obviously, you never want to make your defense the priority in your lineup. So that's the one reason why we leave it out of this segment. Is Steelers likely going to be your defense for cash games this week.
I like the Raiders as well, just FYI.
Yeah, that's a great call. I like that. I like the Raiders as well.
2,500, I think, good spot.
Absolutely. I love that call as well for tournaments. A little running back defense correlation there with Josh Jacobs. That's I might have to get more of that. You talked me into that. So I'll definitely have to get more of that. But we'll go quarterback first. Your favorite cash quarterback and tournament quarterbacks.
So my favorite cash quarterback is going to be Josh Allen. And he can be a tournament too. I just think we can get a little bit, like you talked about, some stacks in some other spots. So I'll go Allen in cash. And in tournaments, I'm going to go, even though I said I'm going to be off him a little bit, but I'm going to go Hurts. I think Hurts is going to be my tournament. I could see him getting 30 plus A. It's going to be a good Hurts game.
Absolutely. My cash quarterback is going to be Justin Fields. And for tournaments, I'm going Josh Allen, Hurts at the top of the grid. I'm playing Fields in tournaments. Dak Prescott is my single entry quarterback this week.
You know what? As for quarterbacks go, doesn't it feel like it's a week we got to pay up? Like, yes. We've been getting away with stealing a little bit with Fields lower and some Tua at times lower. Yeah. So pay up this week. I do agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to mention, because he's not here to say it, he'd be blowing on my phone if I didn't say it. Stix is on Marcus Mariota. So Stix, for those that didn't hear me the first time, Stix is on Marcus Mariota. I did want to mention that on his behalf. Running backs. Yep. Yeah. Very in that cheap range that we've been playing Justin Fields at. Stix is going with Marcus Mariota this week. Your favorite running backs for cash and tournaments?
I did say it earlier, and I am going to be chalk, but I do like Montgomery. And I like him in tournaments. I just think if I can play the chalk and hit everywhere else, I'll be happy. But also, Saquon. I'm going to try and find ways to get Saquon in tournaments as well. And cash, I like Jacobs. I think he's going to be a steady force today. I think he's going to get us a solid number that, we can build around. So those are my three.
I dig it. If you have the luxury to play Saquon in cash, I personally do not. By all means, you have the green light to do so. I don't have that luxury because I'm playing Justin Fields and other wide receivers that I'm about to mention. So my running backs are going to be David Montgomery, and my stomach is bubbling as I'm saying that because it is nauseating. I'm only playing them in cash. These are cash running backs. And for me, it's going to be David Montgomery and one of the Washington running backs. I am personally going Robinson. If you play Antonio Gibson, that's cool too. Like, I legitimately, either one. For me, the approach I'm taking is that Robinson is safer for cash. Antonio Gibson has a higher ceiling for tournaments. That's the out point that I have. And for tournaments, I like your Jacobs call. Absolutely on that train. Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard. Yeah.
Pollard. That's my guy this week. Wide receivers, where are you going for cash in tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, cash, I do think, there's going to be some games this week that you really want to target. And one of them, I'll get to my tournament plays there. But for cash, I do like your call on St. Brown. I think, in that implied total being a little higher than we expected, some points being scored in that game. I think Amon-Ra is a little safer for me in cash. And when I go into tournaments, I'm going to be looking at CD as everyone else, and I get it, and I'm okay with that because that game stack is going to be huge. We got to get it right. And then I also like T. Higgins a lot this week.
I like that a lot. My cash wide receivers are going to be CeeDee Lamb and Scary Terry McLaurin. Those are the two non-negotiables for me. You absolutely have to play those two in cash for me. And then in tournaments, obviously still a lot of love for CD, but we'll name some other guys. In your Hurts lineups, you're playing AJ Brown towards the top of the grid. In your car lineups, you're playing Devontae Adams. These are for large field tournaments. Obviously, they're not going to be my main lineup. But in my primary lineups, it's a lot of Gabe Davis. And in my fields lineups, a lot of Mooney.
Yep.
We mentioned Darius Slayton. And towards the bottom, I'm playing Ben Skowronek over Paris Campbell and Nico Collins. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I'll add my DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, as my lower area run back in that Bills game.
I dig it. Absolutely love that. Love that nice little pivot there in the range. And then we'll just finish off tight end. Yeah, we'll finish tight end and then we'll get to more questions. But yeah, it's Swift and Pollard for me.
Yep, same.
And then for your tight ends, where are you going cash in tournaments?
Yeah, he's in both for me, but I guess, Stix and you and myself all aligned here. I think it's a Kyle Pitts day, just like it's a Gabe Davis day. So I like Kyle Pitts. And then I'm also going to be running it back. I'll definitely get some Dulcich in there. They need to move in that passing game. Raiders bad against tight ends, but Hayden Hurst is another one that I like today as well. And I'd say he's more of my tournament play.
Absolutely. A lot of love for Kyle Pitts this week, but my cash tight end is going to be Dulcich. And in tournaments, a lot of Dalton Schultz, a lot of Kyle Pitts, Higbee.
Yeah.
If you can afford Hawkinson, I like that. Exposure to that game. That's the theme for me. So that's why I'm playing Schultz and Hawkinson. I need exposure to that game. So I'm okay with Hawkinson. It's one of those weeks where I never played this many tight ends, but there's a lot of good options, man. Dulcich and cash. Yeah. Dulcich and cash, Kmet, Pitts, Higbee, Schultz, and Hawkinson. Those are my 5 for tournaments. I know
Tony and I have been on this week, but I really think the Eagles are going to try and roll out Grant Calcaterra today. So keep an eye on that name. I'm not saying you have to play him at 2,500. Just keep an eye on that name because it's possible he could be a Goddard kind of replica doppelganger type. He was good talent out of Oklahoma at SMU when they drafted him.
Absolutely. And we always love a nice touchdown for a guy that's the stone cold minimum at tight end. That's always the best.
And Brian, I get it. I just think Jack Stoll is going to be more in there for the blocking assignments. And that's why Hurts and Sanders really. But I hear you. I think Stoll could get some reps and catches. I just think Calcaterra is the pass catcher.
Let's do it. That's it. That's all, folks. That's all she wrote. Just under 45 minutes here to log. Dave, thank you for joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's really cold up here, but it's still nice outside, so we'll take it.
Absolutely, Ghost. Thanks for having me. And thanks to everyone for joining in this NFL pre-lock show. Leave you with 45 minutes till kickoff and a lot of information. So get your lineups right. Send us your screenshots. Hit that like button. Can't wait to talk about winners come tomorrow because I feel like we got some good lineups. All right. That's it from here at the studios at Win Daily Sports. Until next week, let's make today profitable and win daily.